A night that began with so much promise.
We're here tonight. We're here tonight.
Y'all don't sound like y'all gonna win it.
And positive prognostication.
What do you think about the game tonight?
I think I'm gonna like it.
Didn't pay off for the home team.
It's disappointing as hell. It really is. We had an opportunity to win, and you know, I thought we did everything you're supposed to do.
What went wrong and why?
Offensively, it was, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
And looking ahead to the San Francisco 49ers.
We're going to use this, as energy to get prepared for a really good team in San Fran. So it's going to be a battle, but I think these guys are going to use this and roll it over to next week.
On Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
The man
Call
is
somebody,
back,
call
y'all.
somebody.
We're
He's
back.
Call
He's
your
back.
mama, call your daddy.
We're back and we're back.
We're back.
Tony McGee,
He's back, y'all.
We're back. Tony McGee. Come on.
Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Week. This week, we're talking about games of two. We're looking at the Washington team is 2 games behind the Giants after they lost in the playoff chase. We're looking at 2 bad calls by the officials that may have cost them the game. Also, 2 quarters that the defense act like they didn't know what to do, and then 2 turnovers by the quarterback once again. So when we come back, we're going to give you reasons why it's too early to count them out. We'll be right back.
What's up?
Welcome back. As we said, this is a game of twos, but what we did is we brought on 2 people from the teams that means a lot who Washington will be playing in the future. First of all, we went on and got one of the greatest wide receivers. I know because I saw him cross the line on me a lot of times. For Philadelphia, you got Michael Quick. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Hey, man, do you like being on here with superstars like Gary Clark, man? How do you feel with that?
I'm a little bit nervous, No, man, it's an honor to hang out with Mr. Clark and you and Donna. I didn't know that Donna was going to ambush me like that. She just said, "Hey, I want you to be on the show." I didn't know that I would be amongst the superstars that I have the pleasure of being amongst.
She didn't prep you at all, man?
She did not.
Hey, Mike, Gary to put on the sunglasses. He's so cool.
Oh, no. It has not, like Donna and Tony, they typically have stars on the show, but y'all guys brought the sun. You brought the sun onto the show. Come on now. Michael Quick on the show. Oh, man.
As you fans can see, we got the G-Man back here.
Oh, no, I'm not worthy.
LXP, and then we got the Donna. But later on, guys, we're going to get Carl Banks, former Giant, on the show.
Oh, that's just me headaches, man.
Oh, man, that's going to be
that makes my body remember pain.
To get started on it, I'm going to look at this. And if you look at the game Sunday, it was a game of twos, as I said. This put the Washington team 2 games behind the Giants, but at the same time, it was 2 big mistakes made by the quarterback, I feel, was contributing to the loss when he fumbled twice. Then you look at the defense. For 2 quarters, they act like they did not even know it was a game. Then you go back and you look at the official. 2 calls that were unnecessary, and one of them where the whole world saw it being whole. But now, guys, as I told them in the opening, it's still too early to count them out. Am I telling that, Donna? What do you think?
Hey, Tony, it's too early to count them out. They're holding on a thread and they hold their destiny. But this was a big game against the New York Giants. They had 2 weeks to prepare for the same team that they tied against. And then to come out, like you said, to act like that they were still on the bye week. And I know we're talking about the officials as far as the call at the end of the game. I mean, it's almost like the Giants player was having a piggyback ride on Curtis Samuel. But even taken away from those calls and everything, you look at the mistakes that this Washington football team made. That's what, to me, Tony, caused this game even more so. Heineke, he fumbles the ball on a sack fumble, and Giants take it in for a touchdown. And then the second one where he just fumbled the ball himself. So when you look at the opportunities that this team had in the red zone, I mean, they are their own worst enemies in the red zone, a problem all season long. And I told you, Tony, from probably 5 or 6 weeks, this offense does not score enough points, and it caught up with them on Sunday. And moving forward, those teams score points, and this Washington team has to get this fixed and not worrying about anybody else but themselves. And they were out-coached, Tony.
Yeah, they were out-coached as well, but at the same time, my thing was important is who they have to play this weekend, and that's what's up. They still in it. So right now, what they have to prepare for maybe the best team in the NFC. Mike, if you look at these teams, or you look at the Washington team, and you know in the future, Philadelphia will be a team that they have to play. A team that do not make a lot of mistakes. At the same time, the quarterback is instrumental in running everything. And when you look at this Washington team, you look at a game like the Giants, what weaknesses do you see that will be a problem for them trying to get in the playoffs?
Well, let me first correct you. You said they're going to play next week the best team in the NFC. Tony,
I lost my head, man. I lost.
Tony, I get to watch every week the best team in the NFC, and they're right here in Philadelphia.
Tell them again, Mike.
I tell you what, though, Mike, you have a very good point for the simple aspect that 49ers are always one player away from not even getting in the playoffs. They have a lot of injuries and everything. They have a lot of the people in the right position. Your team, the only thing that worries me about them, and the same thing as about the Washington team, is your quarterback is so important. If anything ever happened to him, you guys can't survive. Now, we have a quarterback here that's 50-50, and Alex, you know that very well. And you can see 2 times on Sunday, he overthrew wide receivers, which I'll be back to you on that, G. He overthrew wide receivers at that point, could have changed the game. That's a weakness that I see on this team, and we talked about it all year. He's a 50-50 man, but if you're trying to make the playoffs, you can't do that.
Tony, I hear you. And last night when he made the big mistake early with the fumble, turn touchdown, then he had the other fumble, I thought to myself, this guy does this every game, and this is who he is. And Gary or Fred or somebody said they're backups for a reason. That said, they've won games with him. And normally, he sort of saves his best for last. There's this roller coaster. He's like, oh, my goodness, he did it again. And then somehow they talked about pixie dust on the broadcast. He kind of pulls it out. And he almost did again. Listen, he's not perfect. He's not the answer franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. They don't have that. They haven't had that for 30 years, okay? But this guy did put them in a position. The refs had a ton to do with the ending of that football game, as you know, to kind of pull one out again. And the pixie dust, at least for last night, ran out. Is he flawless? Of course not. Nobody is. Is he going to make these glaring, oh my goodness, I can't believe he did it again, mistakes? Yeah. He'll do that every game, Tone. Every game, mark it down. But more often than not, he has this moxie and this way to rally that offense. That final drive, boom, 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 to the 1 yard line and maybe in, if not for the official. So, listen, he'll get criticized. That comes with the territory. He put them in a position, despite his errors, to win another football game. Unfortunately, refs, a bunch of other stuff, pixie dust, whatever you want to call it, it ran out Sunday night.
And you can't just say the refs and everything because he had 4 situations, as I indicated. He overthrew 2 wide open receivers. And, Gary, I'm coming to you. He did have a great drive at the end time, but it looked like the receivers made that drive. The receivers came and showed up, and they really caught the ball well for him, made the circus catches that they needed. And at the same time, I think, Gary, you talked to me, and then I talked to Mike on it. These receivers are ready to carry this team. The defensive line was carrying the team, but right now, your receivers, Gary, tell me about them. They look like they're prime and ready.
Yeah, I mean, the receiver core, I mean, really, when you got, I say it each week, they got 5 receivers or 5 deep. Their 5th receiver could start on any team in the NFL right now. So that's great. This loss, I hate to say it, but it is kind of about Heineke. He had the fumble that they scored a touchdown on. That gave him points. Then he has the fumble when we go to either kick a field goal or possibly score a touchdown. He has that fumble. And that takes points off the board from us. And then, like you said, pixie dust, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you do something that makes you forget about those mistakes that you did. We've all been there. I've dropped balls, then came back and made catches, make you forget about the balls that I dropped, right? So when he had a chance, it never should have came down to us trying to run the ball in. He had a chance to score himself. And when he got to the goal line, his momentum would have scored. But then he balled up, and that's just not him typically. Like, he's typically the guy that leaves his feet to go score, or his momentum would have carried him into the end zone. But for some reason, he rolled up and, he kind of bitched out, and that's not a good thing. And it would have completely changed the momentum of the game because the crowd would have went crazy because the crowd loves him. We all love him. We love what he represents. We love his story. But for him to make his story great, he has to make great plays, especially when you screw up. Because if he would have scored a touchdown right then and there, we would not be talking about any of the mistakes that he made, but we just been like, he's a great guy who gets the team motivated. He had his chance then to get the team motivated, and unfortunately, his momentum would have scored a touchdown, and he froze up at the goal line.
Well, let me
Tony, let's back up. Tony, wait a minute. Let's back up for a little bit. We haven't even talked about this as far as we talked about the receivers, but what we haven't talked about that this team probably did not do a good job is Brian Robinson was taking people on his back 5 or 6 or 7 yards. They got away from the running game in the second half. I mean, they mixed it up with the passing game a little bit, but the running game was that was working. And Scott Turner went completely away from that. And why you don't put the ball into Brian Robinson's hands to try to punch it into the end zone to run those hard yardage? I don't know. We haven't talked about some of this play calling from Scott Turner because he did not do a good job down the stretch to get this team into the end zone. His play calling was, to me, suspect, but the running game, to me, they went away from that. Brian Robinson had like 12 carries at one time. And the other problem for this team, 2 of 10 on third down. You're not going to move the sticks if you're not picking up the third downs.
And you know what? That's a very good, astute observation there. And Mike, I'll go back to you on the part. What do you see this team is dangerous to, according to your Philadelphia first place team, best in the NFC East? What do you see? And one thing that I want to ask you, Donna hit it right on the head. As long as they were running that ball and they would let Mr. Robinson go to his neighborhood, they were doing well. But as soon as they let the quarterback take back over. Now, what I'm saying is against Philadelphia, I'm sure they will run the ball. How do you feel your defensive line to stand up against this line? Because we see on Sunday that if this team runs the ball the way they ran it then, they could go deep into the playoffs if they make it.
So Donna makes the best point that I've heard so far in that Scott Turner down the stretch did not do a good enough job. Your running game could be really lethal. And if you run the ball so I just believe that you can start to really take over the games. You did it against us, against the Eagles, start to really run the ball. That's how they won the game against the Eagles. When you can effectively run the football and you have the weapons that you have on the outside, it makes the game easy. And Scott Turner should know that. When you got McLaurin. When you got McLaurin, you got the kid out of Penn State, you got Curtis Samuel. Man, you got some weapons on the outside. And you force teams to play you single coverage because you run the ball so effectively. You got to get an extra man in the box. And that's when you can take advantage of teams. When you can draw the linebackers up because of your play action passing game, because your run game is working so well, that's when you can make hay in the passing game. But I got one question because I didn't get to watch the entire game because I was in Chicago and traveling back from Chicago. But watching the end of that game, and I'll go to Mr. Clark. How can you not line up on the line of scrimmage? Listen, it's goal line situation. You know, the simplest thing that you do as a wide receiver is line up on the ball, get on the line of scrimmage, and make sure that the formation is the correct formation. If you're wide out, you look in and no one's covering the tackle, you know you have to cover the tackle.
G, come on, man. That's a good one.
That is a good one. And Terry does not typically make any mistakes like that. I mean, he truly does not. So
he's a pro. I love the guy. I love the way he plays.
And so I'm not sure what happened on that. Like you said, I mean, I thought it was a heavy set. I thought there was 2 tight ends supposed to be in the game. But at the end of the game, like you said, you look down and see that it's not covered, then you have to cover that for him. So T-Mac doesn't make too many mistakes, but every now and then happens. But again, the way I look at it, the quarterback should have scored the play before.
Yeah,
No question.
I agree with that.
He should have scored the play before.
Had that happened, if he had to hit one of those big throws early in the game, it may not would have happened. But when we take a break, we talk about what's up next. What's up next is they can't keep looking at this game. They have to go forward. But I have to ask G-Man before we go out. You got the glasses on. Your collar is up. Does that mean you're cool or cold? We'll be back.
I just mean you brought the sun to this show today. Well, I'm typically the ratings. I am no longer the ratings on this show. Michael Quick is the ratings. 100%.
He's just always
100%. Cool. One of my mentors, 100%. I stole as much as I could from this man when I was receiver. I will continue to steal from this man because he's just cool no matter what. I'm just trying to hang out.
You heard it from Ice Cube. Oh, that ain't Ice Cube. That's G. Okay, we'll be back in a moment. We missed opportunities, and we can't do that. We talked about that when we were off last week, that the red zone was something we got to be better at, and we didn't do that. If we had done it, that last series doesn't matter.
I think the turning point of that game, the biggest play of that game is the sack fumble for a touchdown in the first half. If that doesn't happen, our defense is playing well. That's a tough one. Offensively, it was, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. Whether it's a holding penalty, a couple false starts, or a delayed game, get behind the chains. When we do that, we're not as good. So we can cut those things out. And again, when we get in the high red zone, let's make things happen instead of going backwards or stalling out. So, in the first half, I think that was the story of it. I feel like there was a lot more points out there than just 3.
Yeah, we definitely had some opportunities, in the red zone. We got in the red zone a few times, obviously, today, and we just didn't quite capitalize. Third down to keep the chains moving, we didn't quite capitalize, and we had too many mistakes. And when you're playing this level of football where every play matters, every series matters, you can't really afford to make too many mistakes. And you got to credit them. They capitalize off of some of our mistakes, and I think that's why they came out with the victory.
It's extremely frustrating just because we know the capability of the guys on this team. We especially know the capability of the guys in this room. We know we can make plays, and that's what we do. We make plays. So to see like a game go down like that it's really tough. So many opportunities missed. I think the biggest thing is getting in the red zone and not converting touchdowns, settling for field goals, turning the ball over. We can't do that if we want to be good teams. So that's just the frustrating part. We drive the entire field just to get in the red zone and turn the ball over. Is unacceptable.
We just, I feel like we didn't execute. I felt like our preparation was there, but we didn't execute once we got on the field. So that's definitely something we'll have to correct.
Hey, Bobby, what is most frustrating about this game? And Coach Avera talked about the missed opportunities.
That exactly, just missed opportunities, defensively, offensively, special teams. We just gotta execute. That's what the game comes down to. It comes down to execution, and they executed one more play than we did.
So, Tony, when you all listened to the locker room, all you heard the whole time was missed opportunities and execution. And you think about the Giants this time, they created the turnovers, which is something Washington's defense had been good doing probably the last 6 or so games. They had none in that game. But despite, like I said, that we want to point the finger at the officials with those calls that we know what's pass interference, it comes down to the opportunities that was missed. They were driving on the first play of the possession of the game, and they were moving down the fields, but mistakes and penalties hurt them that pushed them back. They were pushed out of field goal range. And then on other opportunities when they were moving down the field, what stopped them again? Mistakes, penalties, and all of those things. And they had some, Tony, back to back. But one thing I'll point out too on the defensive side, 4th and 9, the Giants went on 4th and 9 and was able to pick it up. Daniel Jones still created problems for this Washington's team, and he just executed better than Heineke did in that game. And that created that L again, Tony.
And you know, that's what we have to get. But Mike, let me ask you this. As you look forward, and as a player, I always wondered what happens when you're already in the playoffs and you've been playing well and everyone's saying you're the best team in the league. What do you think about this Philadelphia team? What could be the thing that could hurt them? One thing I always say, I'd rather be playing well at the end of the season rather than real good in the beginning. You see this Philadelphia team dropping off any? Are they at peak right now, and will they go down? Where do you see they can improve?
So, Tony, really, I'm a little bit scared where they are right now, and only because they've been very fortunate. And I know that at some point, things happen in this league, and it's a battle of attrition, and you're going to lose people along the way. And that probably more than anything really scares me. It's a young coaching staff. They're really good at connecting with these guys. This hybrid offense, and I call it a hybrid because it's a mixture of what they do on Saturdays in the college game and the NFL game. And so I thought the Bears on Sunday were probably the best team that they faced this year in terms of being able to stop the RPO game that they play. But it's a really good football team. They're deep at every position. They play smart football. The young quarterback is really smart and really dedicated to being the best pro that he can be. Like when everyone else takes Tuesday off, he's the guy that's in the meeting rooms with the coaches, putting the game plan together. He's there every day. His dedication to the game and trying to learn his craft, I would say, is second to none. So I'm encouraged by that. But the only thing that I really worry about is down the stretch, the possibilities of injuries. This offensive line, they've been intact for every game. There's only one game that Jordan Mailata, the left tackle, was out. But aside from that, they've had everybody intact all season long. And that's kind of rare in the National Football League.
Gee, after we hit that a little bit and we're talking about, as Mike has indicated, and I respectfully do not disagree, but I do disagree when he was talking about the Eagles are the best in the NFC.
Yeah.
Washington is going against this weekend, individuals that are really good, but they have a lot of injuries in the defensive backfield. Is this a good time for the Washington receivers to take this game over? Because 49ers, the second best team in the NFC, is who they're playing against. And if they were to lose this weekend, that puts them in harm's way. They got two teams that they're ahead. They must improve and beat the Seattle teams and the different teams like that. But what can these receivers do this weekend to help Heineke? Seems like we're talking about he always make a mistake. What can they do against a defensive backfield that has a lot of injuries?
Well, I mean, they can keep doing what they've been doing, quite honestly, Tony. I mean, the receivers have been making the plays when given the opportunity to make the plays. If anything, they save Heineke a lot but what I do like about Heineke as a receiver, and I think Mike will attest to this as well, is whether we covered or not, we still want you to throw the ball to us. Because we feel like we can come down with that ball. No different than what Dotson did with the kind of throw up the ball, but he came down with it. So I like when a quarterback's going to give me a shot, whether he thinks I'm covered or not. I'm still open in my mind. I'm going to come down and make that play. So I think he has 5 receivers who are going to make the play if you give him an opportunity to. What we have to make sure Heineke understands is that now he has to start playing like a 5th-year veteran, even though he's a third-year veteran. He has to start playing like he's a 10-year veteran, a 15-year veteran. You can't keep saying, I'm a 50-50 quarterback, because that does not work in the NFL, especially when you're trying to get into the playoffs, and especially once you are in the playoffs. It's important that now I've grasped, I've been around long enough, I need to learn, and I need to stop making mistakes, because you can't make mistakes on the road. You just can't. And what's going to help their passing game if they run the ball well.
Hey, Tony, they better play like Superman. Heineke better play like Superman on Sunday, because that defense of the 49ers is going to bring the heat. If they thought the Giants brought some heat, it ain't nothing like the fire that they're going to be in against the 49ers, because the Bosa, the way I watched him play in that game on Saturday, the way he was coming around the edges and they were bringing the pressure, and you think that Cal Shanahan is not going to bring that against a Heineke? They better hope they can run that ball, because the heat and the fire they're going to be under is major.
And you're exactly right about that. But Alex, here's what I want to ask you. The third best team, they say, Dallas. And we said earlier in the show that an empty wagon rattled the loudest and they was all the Dallas Cowboys and all this. What do you think about their loss on Sunday? What does that position them? And are they a team that in the playoffs, they could maybe be easily beat? And that's what we're looking at, all the NFC teams that Washington and will have to beat. What do you think about Dallas? Maybe they're not as good as we thought.
Tony, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and I'm not saying it because A, I grew up a Redskins fan and hated the Cowboys, and B, because this is a Washington/NFC East centric show. Here's what I'm going to say. Dallas for the last 20 years. Everybody talks about Dallas. They're America's team. They're sexy. They're always in prime time. The uniforms are pretty. They're rock stars. Dak Prescott's a rock star. Tony Romo was a rock star. They are what they are. They have that mystique. Everybody on this panel can't stand that. Mike Quick probably can't stand that. Gary Clark, I know you can't stand it. They get more pub. They're the New York Yankees. They're the Duke Blue Devils. Okay? We know what they are. They never are good late in seasons. They were never good in the playoffs. Remember Tony Romo dropping the snap and they lost that game? Dak Prescott, I think, has won one playoff game. Until they do it, they haven't done it. And Sunday's loss, it's kind of who they kind of have been the last 20, 25 years. They will get to the playoffs. It'll be the primetime deal. It'll be the game of the day. And if they don't win, that's what they've done for the last God knows how long. So I don't really believe in them, because I think they got to show it. Buffalo, they've been there, done that. Other teams, San Francisco, there's teams that get to the playoffs. Ravens, they make noise. This team doesn't make noise. So I'm not sold on them. That was an awful loss. They were up 17 points late, and they blow it. Is it going to cost them a playoff spot? No. They're not going to win the NFC East. Whoever they play first, going to be a good team. It's going to be the playoffs. So Dak Prescott has to show people, I think, and Parsons and all of them, that they can do it when it matters. Yesterday kind of mattered. The later you get, the more they matter. They kind of blanked the bed late in that game. And to your point, when they win in the playoffs and go deep, that'll be the first time in a long time. I need to see it, Tone.
And what matters, Alex, is the fact that Dak has had 2 back-to-back turnovers in the game against the Texans. They should have lost that game because they played horrible in that. But they had 2 more turnovers. Dak did. But now the Philadelphia Eagles play the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Hey, Mike, what do you see in that game more so? Because, you've got 2 solid quarterbacks. Is Dallas slipping some? And can
that wasn't Dak's fault? That interception wasn't Dak's fault.
Hey, Mike.
The interception is getting blamed on the quarterback.
That wasn't Dak's fault. They hit the guy right.
You can't
hit the guy right in the chest.
But Gary, who gets the blame still? The quarterback.
What you were saying that was Dak's fault, though. They can get the blame, but it was not his fault.
That may have not been his fault, that one, but the other one was, and the ones against the Texans
won that one.
His fault.
Exactly. So
they won that one.
Up, Mike, I'm going to give you a chance to answer that question, but what we have to talk about what's next. What's next is we have to stop talking about those games, because every game in front of them right now will be a game, we'll say, playoffs, and that's what we want to find out about. We'll be back in a moment.
Next.
You know what's up next. We talk about now and what we need to do now, and I'm saying we, and I haven't hit a person in 40 years, but at the same time, what Washington needs to do now is try to critique their mistakes. Do what they need to do. Don't worry about who's doing what. You have a game this weekend, but as you look around the league and look at the NFC East, it's a possibility that all 4 teams, Donna, from the NFC East can make the playoffs.
It's a possibility, Tony, but the Commanders just made it harder on their self by not beating the Giants. But I'm talking to Mike because they've got a big game coming up this week against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. The Eagles got the Cowboys the first time around. But Mike, how do you see it this time around? Jalen Hurts is playing lights out ball, but you even said that it's a little scary time right now, but Dallas right now has slipped some. I mean, talk to me about that big game coming up because that's crucial also.
Well, just like the other teams in the NFC East, when you go to Dallas, that is the one team that you want to put a beat down on. So Philadelphia getting ready for Dallas. And I'll back up to last week. You know, Micah Parsons gets on a podcast and he started talking about, Jalen Hurts, maybe he's just a product of the system. He shouldn't be considered in the MVP battle and blah, blah, blah. And that firestorm just went all over the nation, all over the football world. And certainly Philadelphia heard a lot about it. They've talked a lot about it. And, you know, this team had to get ready to go to Chicago to try and play the Bears. Well, they got out of Chicago with the win. But the game in Dallas is as big as any game that the Eagles will play on their schedule, regardless of the standings, regardless of where they are in the picture. When you go to Dallas, you want to go to Dallas and win. I like what the Cowboys have done, and they are starting to stumble down the stretch a little bit. I thought the Texans should have beaten them. They lose the game at the end of the game yesterday, and I'm so glad that Doug Peterson got that win. But this is a game, and I know Dallas will be ready, but it's a game that the Eagles will pull out all the stops, and Jalen Hurts will be ready. And, you know, his supporting cast, they know that Dallas has already said something about him, so the guys will use that as fuel for the fire. But isn't it so nice that we're talking about the NFC being so strong now and that all of the teams right now qualified that they could still potentially get into the postseason? I'm just happy to see the NFC East back and as strong as the NFC East is.
Well, when you had a goat playing like a sheep, and you're talking about the NFC, I got to go to G on this. I tell you what, the GOAT isn't playing too well, G, but they still got an opportunity to take a playoff position. And as you said, and I must agree with you, if they get in, Brady will be tough.
They ain't getting in.
Well, if Brady gets in, anything can happen. I mean, that's just what it is. It's just like when you get certain players that get in a situation, they rise to the occasion. Like, I'm so upset that we did not win a must-win game against the Giants. It's still bothering me. That was a must-win game. You couldn't ask for a better situation. It's prime time. Everybody's watching you play. You could have sent a message across many, many channels, many, many teams, and we didn't do that. What I saw at the end of the game was everybody hugging the team that just kicked your butt. I'm sorry. I'm not going to hug the team that just kicked my butt. It's like that. Perfect example. I love Mike, but when Mike kicked our butt, I wasn't shaking Mike's hand. I talked to him in Hawaii. I'm not going to shake his hand. I talked to him then because I'm upset trying to figure out what did I do wrong that allowed our team to lose. And when I don't see that, especially this was the biggest game in Washington's history for a long time. It just is. And they lost it. I have a problem with the people. They're not caring about it. That tells me right then and there that we need an attitude adjustment very quickly. I know I didn't answer the question that you asked me, but I'm still mad that we lost that game.
Salty, Tony.
And they're coming out of it.
You need to bring back Carson Wentz.
Hey, Mike, I'm curious. When you talked about the 4 teams back in being tops in the NFC East, but when you look at all the teams, and we know that the Philadelphia Eagles are at top, brother Tony wants to admit that. I told Tony the Eagles better than the 49ers, but does the Commanders really is in the same ballpark as these other teams? I know they are with the Giants because I think that the Commanders are better than the Giants. But how do they match up really with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cowboys to make a run in the playoffs moving forward? Are they a serious conversational piece in the East?
I truly believe that they are. With Taylor Heineke at quarterback, I like the moxie. I like the guts of Taylor Heineke. I like the way he plays. I think he's a tough quarterback. He was beat. I've seen him beaten up so many times and just fix his helmet, straighten it up, get back in the huddle, and ready to fight again. I love the skill position players that you have. The offensive line, there are some spots in it that may hurt a little bit, may not be as good as you want them to be. You have a sound defense. Yeah, I think the Washington team is a very good football team.
That's what we've been waiting to hear. And, the one thing about it is you said something that's very important, Donna. They must look at their mistakes and try to improve those. That's what playoff teams do. And that's what I said. We can keep talking about Heineke, and he does make plays, but he got to make 75% of the plays. Offensive line, you got to start blocking like you were at the beginning of the game. Defense, you can't take off 2 quarters. You've been playing well, then you quit on it. You let them have a 97-yard drive when you needed to stop them. And last but not least, a Fisher. Get your game hats on because this is big now. This is not just about you. You don't call a little thing. A guy on the line didn't line up right when you made a touchdown. You call it back, but you can't call a guy bear hugging the guy in the end zone. So it's all a combination. But Donna, what you said is right. The Washington team had to take care of their own business.
Well, Tony, talking about taking care of business, you talked about some other teams around the NFL. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and the Detroit Lions. These 2 teams, to me, are sneaking up, and Cincinnati is just picking up at the point last year. Remember when they were not in the conversation? Nobody talked about the Cincinnati Bengals, and all of a sudden, they are making a little noise and starting to play well. And the Detroit Lions is at the edge as far as trying to get into that playoffs too. And they've been winning the last 3 or 4 weeks too. And those 2 teams, to me, on both sides, are teams to watch moving forward.
Well, don't leave Seattle out now. And that's the one thing that
Seattle,
scares me.
please, Tony.
You got Seattle, and then you got Detroit. And the one thing that scares me,
Tell
Alex,
them, Mike.
about Detroit is they beat the Washington team. So for that last playoffs, you have to keep that in consideration. They are a hot team. They can score on anybody. At the same time, the defense gives up things, but they make the right play. And that's the thing I asked you, Mike, about the Philadelphia. Have they peaked too early? You look at this Detroit team and partially Seattle, and they're peaking right now when it's important. You tell me, is this Detroit team as dangerous as they seem to be?
Absolutely. Detroit is my sleeper team in the NFC. They are. Dan Campbell, their head coach, he's a fiery guy. And you know how everyone talks about the team taking on the personality of their coach? I think that's what we're starting to see in Detroit. That, to me, is a team that I don't want to see the Eagles play. You asked me the question, did the Eagles peak already? Did they peak too early? I really don't think they've peaked yet. I really don't think. I think this team has a lot more to do that we haven't even seen yet. They did a great job midway through the season of going and get 2 big guys in the middle. Actually, they got 3, but not getting much work out of one of them. But Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh just makes it different for this team to stop teams in the run game because they have fresh bodies, fresh big bodies in the trenches all the time. But yes, with the teams that you mentioned, Seattle, I don't take much stock in Seattle, but Cincinnati, they've got a receiver that's as good as any in football, and that defense starts with a boy in the middle, DJ Reader, and DJ Reader does not let you run the ball in the middle of that defense.
So those 2 teams we need
Tony
to watch.
had the nerve to say Seattle. They are drowning in their own river.
Done.
Wait, now let's get the statement right. I said they're playing better, and they are one team that Washington have to look out for because right now Washington is ahead of them. But at the same time, they can't miss a step. I mean, anybody, Donna, just like sometimes you get stuff right on the show, but 90% of the time you're wrong. Oh, I didn't mean that.
Tony, you know. Come on, Seattle, they drown in their own water, Tony.
Well, I tell you what, Speaking of John and water, you start thinking about it right now, and we're at the end of the show almost, but we got some more time to talk about it. But there are a lot of teams, a lot of different things out there. And when you get into the playoffs, and both of you guys know it being in them, it's so many other distractions. Washington will have to deal with that. And when we come back, we have to listen to Donna some more. Tell us what's right.
Tell the truth.
Okay, in a minute. We'll be right back.
The hanging abs. Here we go.
Hanging abs, you'd be just like. I love these right here though. You start off, knee up just like this, and you just go up here and back. Up and back. When you're doing just like this. You won't go this fast, but for you, I want you to come down here and come up and down. If you can hold it like this and go up like this with no problem, then that's fine. But if not, you'll come up here and back down. And you see, I'm not rocking. The way you rock is if you throw momentum up, and you keep doing this, I come up and I'm down slow. I control it. Up, down slow. There's no rocking. That's how you avoid it. All right? Well, no. Oh. Everybody see that? You see how she's getting in it? Arms are like this. That ain't how you want to do it. You want your arms to get in, put them in, bring it up here, and kind of hold up.
Oh,
like
right there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But you still put your weight in here.
Gotcha.
All right. Let me see. Come on down. I got you. Everything fine. Relax. Right there. Now go up and down. Up. Perfect. And down. Let it go. Up and down. Control it coming down. Up and down. There you go. Up and down. Up. Down. I'm gonna make sure you got this on tape. Yeah. Oh, it's not even going.
It's
I'm just playing.
That's why I quit. Mark, God, that is hard.
Hey guys, we just finished the last exercise with my front room workout. I love doing this routine because again, it builds endurance, builds strength, and that's what we want to build when we're doing this workout.
Well, Ricky Irvins with another great workout. Man, he had me working hard on those abs, the hanging abs. And speaking of that, Tony, you know, this Washington football team, Commanders team, you know, when you look at the changing of the guards and everything, off air, we were talking about what, you know, the quarterback situation. But I think Heineke gives him the better chance moving forward in winning this game, even though he may not put the points on the board. But is that all him? I think it's some of the coordinators still.
Well,
Yeah,
Mike,
I was just wondering what happened to Carson, because he started out the season and he seemed to be doing pretty well, and that's happened now in two other places. What gives? What happened to Carson there?
And you know, I have my opinion on it. I think G got one, and as well as Alex. And I'm going to say very quickly, to me, it seems as though that injury in Philadelphia when he was a young kid and he was going after everything, it seemed to affect him. Seemed as though he never recovered from that. As you said, this is his second team, second opportunity. But G, you see it in a whole different way. You think that because Washington's defense is playing so well now, are better than they were, that would have been as well for Carson if they'd have did that early in the year.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if the defense is keeping people to 13 points or less like they're doing now, we win those football games because we're scoring plus 20 points plus. And also with him, you don't get sacked on a three-step drop. He was getting sacked on a three-step drop. Who gets that? That's a 5-yard route. You're not supposed to get sacked on a three-step drop. Don't get me wrong. You do not change the formula because with Heineke, they're winning. So you leave that formula in place. You're not going to mess with the formula. Just like on defense, the defense is playing great. So you bring the guy in certain situations who everybody loves. Our defensive guy that everybody loves, y'all know what I'm talking about. But no, you don't start him. He doesn't replace the defensive liners right now. He comes in special situations to make a play. But I'm
Carson
telling
was
you right
just
now,
struggling. Carson was struggling.
we scored
That's
20
the
plus.
reason
We
why
were
they
scoring
set
20
him
plus
down.
points. 20 plus points a game. When's
Yeah,
the
but
last
he
time
was struggling. He
When's the
struggled more
last
than
time we
Heineke.
scored? When's the last time we scored 20 points?
Well, it's been a long time, but he struggled.
Wait, you did kind of jump on it.
Struggling, he scores 20
asked
points.
the question, Donna.
I'm just saying he got sat down because he struggled as the quarterback.
No, he got
Donna,
sacked as a
hurt.
quarterback.
He got
He
that
got
too.
hurt, but he also got sacked on a 3-step drop.
And he
Who
would've
gets
got
sacked
sacked
on a
more than
3-step
Heineke.
drop? Who gets
Okay,
sacked
but
on a
G,
3-step drop?
Do you
He
think that
did.
sack was because of the offensive lineman or because
Of course,
of
it's because of the offensive line. It's a 3-step
Yes,
drop.
it
It's a
was the
3-step
offensive
drop.
line, and he couldn't get away.
It's a 3-step drop. Nobody. That means that the line completely did not block anybody.
There you go.
That's Mike.
Gary, but he
Nobody
couldn't get away.
gets sacked on a 3-step drop unless
But
your line is
Heineke
completely.
gets away from that.
Oh, then they started blocking it better.
No, they didn't block
They
back.
do.
He
They
just
started
had feet
blocking
to
better.
get away.
Oh, come
that
on.
brings
Man. And
up
I
my
love
next question.
Heineke. Don't get me wrong. I love Heineke. I do, but I'm not going to talk bad about Winston because I'm sorry. If I don't have time to throw the ball, I'm getting sacked on 3 steps. Come on.
Yeah,
I'll
I
tell you
agree
the
with
difference
that.
too that
Come on.
I
nobody's
agree
seen.
with that, but
three-step.
he wasn't going to elude anybody.
I can't elude anybody on a 3-step drop. I'm not supposed to. It's a 3-step drop.
Heineke eludes that, Gary.
That's not a
Heineke
3-step
gets
drop.
away from them.
Not on a 3-step drop. It's a 5-yard pattern.
He runs.
You're basically running a slant or a hitch or a drag route. That's what you're running on a 3-step drop.
Okay, so you look at that, and why don't you take your situation? Here we go back to the coordinator again. If you know you're getting sacked on that, one thing no one seems to talk about what happened to Winston that has been good for Heineke is Brian Robinson coming back.
Oh, yeah.
That changed
100%.
everything.
Yeah.
And you
No,
think
really
about
changed everything as the defense started playing defense.
And
Everybody-
Brian Robinson, I got to give him his depth.
Oh, yeah. He runs hard. He
I got to
runs
give him
hard.
his depth. Other
He runs
teams,
hard.
I tell you, as a defensive lineman, when you got a big running back like that and they have a running game, you can't even
Yeah.
get ready for pass rush. You got to stand in there and make sure they don't run over you. And that's what's transpiring right now with Mr. Robinson.
I like
But Don,
Antonio Gibson. I like Antonio Gibson, but Brian Robinson is a different dude.
He a beast.
He
looks for it.
reminds me of like Eric Dickerson or one of those big backs that can just run you over, has the speed, can run around you. That dude is a real man.
Right.
Exactly.
And Donna, quick question. You said he's getting away from it? That sack that scored the touchdown that basically
I'm not
beat
saying that
that
was
beat us?
one, Gary.
What
That
y'all-
was one.
What are you
That
talking
was
about?
one.
What are we talking about? We weren't fumbling the ball.
That
What-
was one. But how many other times has he
That's
got
not
away
one,
from the
Donna.
sack?
That's not one in New
But
York.
how many
In
times
New
has
York,
he
we
got
don't kick
away
the
from
field
the sack?
goal. We don't kick the field goal in New York because he gets sacked.
But how
He
many
gets
times has
sacked.
he
He doesn't
got
get
away
away.
from how many times has he eluded that Carson Wentz wouldn't have done?
No, I'm just trying to figure out. So Carson didn't. He scored 20 plus points
But he struggled
with no
Gary.
running game. With no
So
running game.
why don't we look at
With
it
no
like
running
this?
game.
That means that the offense is better running the ball. The coaches are calling better. Wentz
No, they're
didn't
not.
get the
No, they're
opportunity.
not, Tony. No, they're not.
When
The
they started
defense started
game on
playing better,
Sunday,
Tony.
Thank
The
you,
defense
Gary.
started
Thank you,
playing
game on
better.
Sunday, they ran the ball. And the bad thing is when they got away from it. So when
Yes.
you talk about bad decisions, that'll be real important if they make the playoffs or not. And when we come back, we got some decisions to make. Donna's talking, they all talking this crap, but they haven't been picking the teams right all year. So what I'm talking about is how you gonna tell me what's happening with the quarterback when you can't pick a winning team? We'll
Gary?
see in a minute.
One more thing.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
One more thing.
Well, you know what? Tony ended it just great. And Gary Clark ain't got nothing to say because he is at the bottom in last place. The picks are on the board, and yours truly is still leading, but Tony is right behind on my heel steps.
Hey, Tony, you see
Yeah.
how Donna's the one that coordinates the picks every week? And somehow.
Yeah, isn't that
he's in first
something,
place
Alex?
every week.
That's a great point.
Oh,
I've
y'all
never
sounded
seen
a
some
little
sort of
salty
audit of
again.
this. Donna puts them out and then says, guess what? I'm in first place.
And
It's
you know,
great. Mike, you should come try
Hey,
this.
Mike,
It's a
people
lot of
that's
fun.
in last place or second or third, they always got a lot to talk about.
Well, we just wondered, Donna. We want to make sure we're not getting pencil whooped up in here. And speaking
Hey,
of
Tony,
pencil whooped,
I'm getting pencil whooped.
Gary, I
Mike-
know you not talking.
I see Texas appear. They aren't even my Texas, but they say they're my picks. My picks are I should be 5-0 every week.
Okay, well, we got about a week. We got about a minute before we get out here. What do you think Washington needs to do, G, this week with the receivers to win this game very quickly? We only got a minute or so. Talk to me.
Whatever Mike Quick says.
I say Washington better pray because D'Amico Ryan's defense is coming to town.
Ooh, I
Donna,
couldn't have said it better.
Alex?
They got to run the football, not get away from it. They do run the football. They run it well. For whatever reason, they stop themselves from running the football. There was some chatter on Twitter, for what that's worth, during the Sunday night game that might they consider going back to Wentz because it wasn't looking good. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this is the National Football League. And if the offense is struggling so badly, don't be shocked if somehow, I don't know. Yeah, Heineke's got to stop turning the ball over. They don't turn it over. They run the ball. They got a 50% chance of beating that great team out in San Francisco.
Okay, well, I'm going to close it out by saying if they begin and run the ball the way they did in the prior game and they continue that, let Mr. Robinson go to his neighborhood, they can win the game. Eliminate your mistakes and do that. But the other things I want to say today is happy birthday to my mother, Lillian McGee. We all love you. All of you people out there in the holiday season, take time to enjoy your family. Have a Merry Christmas and everything. Don't worry about these games. They'll be there when the holiday is over. And good people always remember one thing. Each and every day, make it special for yourself. And that's what we try to do. That's why when we leave this show, we never say goodbye. We say in the minute.
Sign